Welcome back to the Soul Mirror, the space where we stop performing our lives and start actually living them. I'm your host, Shreya, and today we are holding up a big, honest mirror to a question that sounds cosmic, but it also wildly practical. How do we live New Earth now? Like today, in traffic, in group chats, in messy relationships, in the middle of bills and burnout? And to help us break it down in a way that's both spiritual and real world actionable, I'm joined by Queen D Michele. She's an author, blogger, and creator of 52 Insights of Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum. She's also the founder of the FULA History and Genealogy Society in America, a nonprofit preserving lineage and legacy through fulaamerica.org. Quinn brings this powerful combo of soul work and the system thinking, mindfulness plus leadership, healing plus strategy, and honestly, we need that vibe right now. Because New Earth is cute as a concept, but it hits different when you are trying to live it while your ego is in the corner doing the most. So, welcome, Queen. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. And I loved how you said when ego is doing the most. Okay. When ego is doing the most. I'm so eager to get started and to talk about ego. What do we do? How do we live New Earth now? That's the question. And I want to tell your audience that, and they probably know this, is that New Earth is not a place that we can go. New Earth is a state of consciousness that we can be in. It's a level of frequency, if you will. It's a bandwidth. And one can maintain that bandwidth. And regardless if they're in traffic, they're at work, they're cooking dinner, whatever they're doing, if they're holding that bandwidth, then they are residing, they are resonating in New Earth. And so, how can one get there? That state of consciousness, because it's one thing to be there, right? But it's another thing to maintain uh residence there, to live there, if you will. It's one thing to live there while we are physically in a 3D or a three-dimensional reality, right? And then still hold that level of consciousness. And it has to do with ego. Like when you mentioned, when ego is doing the most, you know. So, but one, and we have to separate ego. Ego has a general purpose, but it's not the general. And if we put ego in its proper place, which is in the back seat, and we align with, because we're always connected, but there's a difference between being connected and being aligned. So if we put ego in the back seat, where it can generally serve out its purpose, and put our soul self in the front seat, and we begin being led, guided, and directed by our soul self, what we will be doing is living from within out. And and with certain practices and exercises, we'll be able to maintain a bandwidth as we ebb and flow uh, with the universe. The universe has this harmonic ebb and flow to it. And your soul is connected to that ebb and flow. It's also connected to you. And once you align with your soul self, then you're ebbing and flowing with a harmonic uh, uh, way of being with the universe. I wrote a book entitled Traveling Home Together. And because that's really basically what we're doing. We're traveling home together. And I'd like to kind of read a passage from it to help one understand uh, ego and what's the difference between your soul self and your ego and how to recognize it and then place ego in the back seat. It says, there was one voice within when you were first born into this world. It had your undivided attention. As you grew into your humanness, a new voice was introduced through your senses. What you saw, heard, tasted, felt, and smelled drew you more and more into the physical world, and you lost touch with that non physical connection that your flesh now clothed. You also lost touch with the essence of who you really are as the world took over and that still small voice became smaller. The new, stronger voice that grew within and pretty much took over was that of your ego. Through programming and conditioning, the ego grew stronger and began running things internally. You attached and identified with the stories you were being told about yourself. Those attachments became your belief systems, which determined how you perceived yourself and the world around you. Those perceptions have become the realities in which you have lived for many years. The true essence of you is just as present within as the ego. However, it can remain unheard.
This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. The thing you just shared, it's so amazing. And also, what is one daily choice that signals I am living from a new paradigm, even if it's nothing around has changed yet?
Right. And here's the thing, nothing will. As you live new earth, but your alignment with your soul self, now back connected to that still small voice, you will hear internally when it says go right, go left, turn here, talk to her, be quiet, sit down, speak up. It's that small still voice that's leading, that's guiding, and it's that path of least resistance. There's a flow. How do you know that your paradigm has shifted? How do you know that it is shifting? How do you know that your frequency or bandwidth has you have tuned in, turned in, tu- you know, tapped in and turned on to a frequency? Is like a radio station. And because there's there's three principles in which one who does resonate uh in that new earth frequency, that bandwidth, is non-judgment, non-attachment, and non-resistant. Those three principles right there. See, because whatever you resist, it will persist. Resistance brings about a persistence. So you know that you are, or your paradigm is starting to shift or has shifted because you're not judging anymore. It is what it is. It's allowed, it's accepted. You're not attaching anymore. You're not tethered to material things that keep you more or less on that wheel, or you will notice that the ego is driving. You're attached, you know? And then, of course, non-resistance, non-resistance. Those are three principles that kind of allows you to know that your paradigm is shifting and or has shifted. Another passage in the book Traveling Home Together, um, I'd like to read. It kind of just gives you another perspective, if you will, about ego. Okay. What is ego? It is who you believe you are. Most believe, as I did, that the thinking self is who we are. That thinking self is ego. Our ego grew as our thoughts and beliefs were downloaded in us during our formative years. It feels normal to operate and function from our ego, as it does serve a general purpose, but it's not the general. Our ego is a built in defense system, a thought producer and processor. It
Mm.
shelves our biases, perceptions, and preferences unique to the experiences we've had. But the ego grew as we strengthened, fed, and relied on it far too much. Finally, we came to believe we were that system, producer, and processor. The ego is quite satisfied with its seemingly perfect, permanent role as the driver of the vessel that is you. Ego continually replays the thought patterns that put it in the front seat position and you asleep, separated from the truth of who you truly are. Ego loves its position and will fight to stay, but it has overstepped its purpose and needs to be put back in its place in the back seat where it can still serve, but under your command.
Yes, this is so let's like less like a escape the matrix and more like upgrade the operating system now.
Well, absolutely. And once ego is put in its proper place in the back seat, and your soul self is brought forward where it can lead, guide, and direct, then that's absolutely an escape from the matrix, and now you are more of an observer, and you are connected to your true purpose here. We are here. Had I not, when I retired from teaching, um, had I stayed in the United States, even after I stopped teaching and I was receiving a pension, for my 27 years as the elementary and middle school teacher, it wasn't enough for me to live on. So I started doing odd jobs, almost kind of like a hustle type thing to supplement my pension, right? Now I could have stayed on that wheel, you know, stayed on that wheel, working until I really couldn't work anymore uh, because of age and health. And then I would live substandardly because I couldn't work. See, the system is not broken. People say, oh, the system is broken. System's not broken. It's by design. It's it's designed. It's not broken. It's designed. And I could have stayed there and worked and paid bills and worked
Mm.
and paid bills and worked. But see, there would be um no weekend getaways or any fine dining or any concerts. I would work and pay bills until I couldn't work anymore. That's the system. That's the matrix. That's the design of the matrix. See, understand this, the matrix cares not of the quality and purpose of your life here, but only of the quantity and how much you can give over to the system. You owe no one or no thing your life. And so, having that realization, I moved to Mexico where I actually began discovering uh, and tapping in to the purpose of my life as a light worker, a way shower, a frequency code holder, and a new earth representative. Had I stayed on that wheel, there would be no 52 insights for Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum. There would be no traveling home together. And I wouldn't have living the life of new earth while I'm here in this realm. That was my soul contract uh, before I even came here. I came forth for a time such as this. And once I connected to my soul self, oh, I'm sorry, once I aligned, because we're always connected. Once I aligned with my soul self, my true purpose was revealed to me. But if I would have stayed on that wheel, work, pay bills, work, pay bills, I never would have become aligned with my soul self and live new earth as I'm living it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, you created 52 Insights for Gen Alpha, which is iconic because kids are not just the future, they are literally here dealing with grown up stress. What inspired you to build a conscious curriculum for middle and high schoolers?
You know what? Excellent question. And thank you for asking that. That was never, believe it, I tell you, the universe is perfect. And once aligned, you become aligned with your true purpose here. That book was actually, that curriculum, that program was actually in the beginning while living in Mexico. It was called 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now. Okay, 52 Insight. And I was primed and set to do an 8-month workshop on that we were going to meet every Saturday. I had gave a presentation, people had signed up, and it was going to be called The Soul's Journey, right? And I had brought in some people who were masters of meditation, of movement, of music. It was going to be a phenomenal program. But then I got a call that my parents back in the United States were extremely ill and needed a caregiver. So of course, I put that on the back burner. I went back to the United States and I was there for 3.5 years. And that book, 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now, I just set it aside. I mean, I put it down. That was kind of over. I focused on caregiving for my parents. Um, they passed away within 10 months of each other in 2022, and my niece had a birthday and coming up, and I some for some reason I looked over at that book. I said, you know what, that'll be a nice book, for her. I'll give her a book, give her that book and a candle, maybe a bottle of wine. Happy birthday, niece. She came over. I gave her gift. She started thumbing through it. She's a basketball coach for girls' high school, and she said, "Oh, Auntie, this would be a great book for high school." And then I thought, you're right. It would. I talked with another relative, spoke with her about what my niece had said. She said, "Oh no," she said, "that's perfect for middle school." And I said, "Middle school?" And hey, I had been removed from teaching for so many years at that point. And I was like, who is middle school in that moment in time? So I did a deep dive of research into who middle school actually was and discovered that middle school Earths are Generation Alpha, or deep dive to Generation Alpha. And I discovered Generation Alpha was born between 2010 and 2024. The oldest of that generation just turned 13 last year. They are the first generation to be born fully in the 21st century. This means that they have been clicking and swiping since infancy. They will be the largest generation in the history of the world. They are in spaces and on platforms that are free from parental influence. They are in spaces and platforms that their parents don't even understand. And here's what's so important about Generation Alpha. And just check out the name Alpha. What does Alpha mean? Beginning. They are responsible for the conscious evolution of humanity. Now they are going where we are not. And what has happened, they're the children of the millennials and some exes who got in the game late. But what has happened, because they have been clicking and swiping since infancy, they have a whole different um outlook, because they've only been taught externally. That's been their only way of being being taught, is through an external stimuli. So now, uh what has happened is that there's no balance. There's no balance between the external and the internal. So after this, doing this research and discovering this about Generation Alpha, it was told to me by my soul self that that 52 insights for living new earth now was never intended for the audience I thought it was. It was always for Generation Alpha. So it became 52 insights for Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum. Had I stayed on the wheel and just worked and paid bills and worked and paid bills, I never would have created that. And then through circumstances, because the universe is
Mm.
perfect, discovered who it was really meant for. And basically 52 insights is 52 quotes. During my time in Mexico, I created a brand called Considerations of the Soul. And, I wrote some books, Traveling Home Together, of course, The Road to Well-Being, and 52 Insights for Living New Earth Now. Had I known that it was for Generation Alpha, I probably would have messed it up. It's in a very pure state, meant for them. And what it basically does is a mindfulness curriculum that focuses on self-awareness through activities and practices. Uh, it turns them inward, uh, to discover themselves through self-management, relationship skills, social awareness, um, those things of the mind that take them inward. And see, that will give them the balance that they need, because their world has always been external from birth. You understand? So that balance is missing. And they have a very important position here in this realm, as they do, lead the world, the conscious evolution. But until we can turn them inward to even meet their soul selves and be led, guided, and directed to live their life from within out, even though their external world is what it is. Um, it's very important that that material get out. I piloted the program in two middle schools uh, during the 2024-25 school year, and I discovered two very important things. One is that unconscious can't teach consciousness. Hmm?
Mm. Yeah.
Unconscious can't teach consciousness. And the second thing was that in order for it to be consumable and even marketable for the target audience, I needed to integrate AI into the curriculum. So I've taken a course, and I've learned the platform, the software, and what's needed for the adaptive learning journey inward that this curriculum will take them on. And starting during the first half of the year, the new year, I'll be integrating AI into the curriculum, and then I will pilot it again online for the 2026-27 school year.
I love that. I simply love that. That you just said, and this is so beautiful. The conversation with you, it's very new. It's very insightful. And if after this conversation, my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Oh, well, great. Thanks for asking that question as well. Have them go over to my website. It's my nonprofit website, but 52 Insights has a tab there where they can learn a little bit more about, Generation Alpha and the curriculum. And they can find that at FULA America.org. FULAamerica.org. FULAamerican.org. Sorry.
That's okay, and I will make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and learn more from. Bye bye.
Um, Thank you so much. And my books are on there too. They can click on the tab that says publications. And there they'll see my books, because Traveling Home Together actually has a workbook to go with it, because there are practices and exercises for one to maintain residence in New Earth. And so that workbook helps them to begin working on those exercises and practices that help them maintain that residence in New Earth. So again, that's FULAamerican.org.
Yes, and to my Soul Mirror family, here's is a mini challenge for this week. That is super simple, super powerful. Once a day, pause and ask yourself, is this response coming from ego or from essence? Then bring one tiny action from essence. Send the kinder text, take the slower breath, and tell the truth without drama. Choose the boundary without the lecture. That's the new earth. Micro moves, massive impact. And if today's conversation lands for you, share it with one person who has already to evolve. And if you want to learn more about Queen's work, especially her curriculum and the genealogy work, check out fulamerican.org. And Queen, thank you
Yeah.
for bringing wisdom and backbone and a heart with this strategy. This is so wonderful. And to all my listeners, keep choosing the version of you that feels calm, feels honest, and free. This is the Soul Mirror, where we remember who we are, one truth at a time. Thank you.